I remember being tremendously jolted the first time I saw a Jasper Johns painting. That, you know, and it seemed like, wow, conventions are important. You know, it's as if Jasper Johns really wanted to do all these little abstract brushstrokes, but he said, why would anybody pay attention? However, if I make a number 5, you can't help but pay attention. You know, if you make a target, it's a way to draw people in, which made me think in terms of English language idioms. You know, can you play with words? I mean, the great thing about words is that they seem so definite, but they're so hazy and cloudy. You know, you can pick one word within a word, and it starts to contradict the basic word. I don't want to do something that refers to something off the page. You know, towards the end of the time I was writing, I started to think, I can't use words like tree, chair. This refers to a space off the page. Whereas I could use on the page words like there, then, at that time, in that space, in that place, you know, words that directly referred to my act of writing the page, words that referred to the reader's act of going down the page. They were almost like guides for the reader, you know. Though eventually, I mean, one of the last poems I wrote was a poem consisting of a page on reading speed, how to improve reading speed. The title given to it was something like the time taken for me to walk from 14th Street and 6th Avenue to 14th Street and 5th Avenue. So an attempt to make reading time equivalent to writing time. By the time I got there, I thought, I can't turn back. The stuff has taken me out to the street. And also I started to question, if I'm so interested in space and moving over a space, why am I moving over an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper? There's a floor out there, there's a street out there, there's a world out there. You know, what can I do on the street? Follow a person. What I thought of as activities. They weren't exactly performances. There wasn't a viewer. If anything, I was the viewer. You know, I used what was available. I started to use Super 8 camera, later a video camera. I mean, I was very struck by a beautiful Charlie Chaplin statement when he was asked why didn't he ever use a close-up in his comedies, and his answer was, well, there's just nothing funny about a face 15 feet high, which I thought, you know, which changed my life, you know. And then I realized, wow, but video is a place for it. Video, you know, a video monitor, a video screen, at least then, was approximately the size of a person's face. So the way I did videos was, okay, my face on screen, face to face with you. I have to assume somebody's going to watch it, you know, with you off screen. What am I doing in relation to you? First of all, where am I? Am I face to face with you? Am I, and in this case, I'm on the floor. I'm like either a pet cat or a snake.
No, I don't need your picture. I don't have to know what you look like. We haven't even said hello yet. You can look like anybody. I'll take anybody. I'll take anything I can get.
Some of the videos I did were before this, but I was really struck by the, so I can't say I stole this from these movies, but it was 72, 73, a great Bob Rafelson movie called King of Marvin Gardens. Begins with black, Jack Nicholson's face leaning into the screen, and, you know, direct confrontation. That was so important to me. Though I had done stuff before that, I guess. But actually, you know, I think a lot of the face-to-face video stuff I did was really not till 73. So I think I got it from King of Marvin Garden.
You know, people have always say about you that at some point you turned your back on the art world.
To me, the shorthand to the time is the music of the time. You know? Late 60s, early 70s, I was listening to Neil Young, Van Morrison, single voice, long song. There was something else going on in music. The introduction of the Velvet Underground was like the introduction of the city in the middle of what in effect was rural music, country music, you know. You have all the time in the world to wander. But Velvet Underground was the city's closing in on you. So, and, you know, by the mid-70s, I was listening to a different kind of music. I was listening to the Ramones, the Sex Pistols, no longer single voice, no longer long song, because a screen can't last for 6 minutes. It started to become clear to me that my stuff is so grounded on the 60s. It's so grounded on a time in which the common language is finding oneself, as if the self is something that you separate from the rest of the person and concentrate on and contemplate. I've never loved galleries. I've never particularly loved museums. But have I turned my back? No, it's an interesting thing. I don't feel a connection to the art world. But I always had questions about the art world, even when I started. I come from a generation who had the illusion that we were going to do the kind of work that would make galleries go out of existence. We were very naive, and also, in some ways, a lot of us were right. We didn't make commodities, so we always had a difficult time surviving. By 73, 74, 75, I and a lot of other people were starting to have very different notions of self. Self wasn't this precious jewel that you found and focused on. Self maybe existed only as part of a social system, a cultural system, a political system. By the mid-70s, I wanted stuff of mine to be part of those overall systems. In other words, I thought, is my stuff inherently self-enclosed? Yes, it was me and you, but what about we? Once I did SEEDBED in 72, and I started to realize it's not the 60s anymore. I might have masturbated in a gallery in 1972. People were fucking in the streets in 1965. Art is a little slow. Yeah. Luckily, life is faster. Our first goal is really not to build. Our first goal is to, can we come up with a design? Can we design a space? Can we design a condition that will surprise us? An attempt we made a few years ago to propose a new light system for New York. The competition brief said that the new light system should have a very thick post, because the post would have to hold different kinds of lights, different kinds of signs. We thought this was probably misguided, since you wouldn't need all those different kinds of lights, all those different kinds of signs all the time. Let's take the opposite approach. Let's use the thinnest pole possible. Then each pole would hold one kind of light, one kind of sign. The more you needed, then you would braid them together. You would braid each one sign, one light post together, so you could have multiple lights or posts. Needless to say, the new light system is exactly the same as the old one. We made a kind of, like a lot of people, made a kind of attempt at a possible new World Trade Center. We proposed a World Trade Center full of holes. Our starting point was that if a building nowadays is going to be exploded anyway, maybe a building nowadays should come already exploded, should come pre-exploded. So we take the original site of the World Trade Center, extrude it to a height of 110 stories high, more of a mass, more of a volume than the original World Trade Center ever was. More private office space than anybody could possibly need. So we can shoot cones into it. Now that the building is riddled with holes, it can possibly act as a kind of urban camouflage. A terrorist flying by above looks down and says, we don't have to bother about this building, it's already been dealt with. Now that the building is riddled with holes, there are now tunnels from one side to another, tunnels from bottom to top. Now that there are tunnels through the building, the rest of the building can come inside. Parks can come inside the building. Street vendors can come inside the building. In other words, instead of trying to observe the convention of private office building with so-called public space outside, can we mix public and private? Which I think our projects, at least when they work, always try to do. This is kind of paradoxical maybe, but even though, we don't build, we build far from everything we do think it's necessary to build, because you have to build in order to test the theory. And the only way you can test the theory is what happens when other people come in. I got a lot of my ideas of architecture from Blade Runner. For Blade Runner was so startling to me. This contradicted the 2001 notion of architecture. The future is abstract and all white. The Blade Runner notion shrugged its shoulders and said, we're never going to have enough money to build from the beginning. Let's just tack on to what's already there. And that, again, it made kind of sense. So our first goal is to do something that surprises us, and hopefully, if it surprises us, maybe it can surprise and excite at least one other person. GRAZ, for example. I mean, we always made the assumption that probably there's a chance that younger people like our work. I don't think we have much of a chance with older people, but that's okay. It's a way that I could maybe pretend that I'm not getting older. When the GRAZ Island was finished, people in GRAZ started to use the island as a place for walks, and a lot of old people were walking on the island. I was really surprised. The interesting thing, like when somebody was in the theater. And especially, I remember this happened a lot with old people. They're in the theater, they're walking, suddenly they kind of look up and around and they started to laugh. When, it seemed like, well, maybe they kind of got the feeling of it. They were in this open space. Now, without realizing it, without going through an entrance, it became a more closed space. And, a lot of people, even though we couldn't use the same language, people came up to us and thanked us. There was a pastry named after us. Now, I don't know if I can say that's totally a sign, but it seemed like, what we were asked to do was this person-made island that would have three functions: a theater, a cafe, and a playground. So we started with the conventional idea of a theater, a bowl. What if we twist the bowl? What if we turn it upside down? Bowl becomes dome. Dome becomes the cafe. The twisting, warping space in between becomes the playground. You walk in under a canopy that twists down to make lounge seating around the cafe. Our bar twists down to make a number of bar counters. The reason for the number of bar counters is that when we design a project, we try to envision, what can happen here. This is a bar. Yeah. Somebody's drunk. Wherever this person extends his or her hand, they might hit a bar counter. At least they have some chance. I always say, yes, we give people a place to use. If we put a couple of folding chairs there, would it have done the same thing? I hope we provide more than a folding chair. We provide a folding chair with a twist. Does everybody want that? I hope. Well, no, maybe everybody doesn't want it. Do we want something that everybody wants? I guess we want to appeal to people who think that, wow, I didn't know space didn't have to be implacable and fixed. Now that I've been in this space, maybe I can turn my space upside down. Maybe I can twist my space. I admit, we want, do we want to appeal to everybody? No. We want to appeal to people who want a second chance, want a future. I got so excited with the notion of a computer-oriented time, because it seems like, well, everybody has things in their own hands, So it seems like this should be the most optimistic time ever. Ideally, we want to do stuff that couldn't have been built, couldn't have been designed, ideally couldn't even have been dreamt of before the 21st century. We don't do that, but we wish we could. We try. We wanted to make a system that possibly could adapt to people. Could people change the system they're in? This is a project we're doing in Indianapolis. The street goes through a building. When people go through it, there's a structure of LED lights that follow you and swarm around you as you. They're not exactly swarming around you. It's an on and off system. But we wanted to make the system that would be almost like fireflies, So fireflies would follow you. If another one person comes, the fireflies start to mingle. Can it be done? Yes. Can it be done for a $600,000 budget? We're not sure yet, but we think it can. But we've been working on a number of projects that kind of adjust to people. This is a proposal that won this competition for a sculpture park in BRNO in the Czech Republic, but whether it will actually happen is another matter. We wanted to fill the space with these almost like fake grass, fake bamboo. It would be fibers. As soon as a person walks, when a person comes close, the fibers start to part. The fibers part to let you through. This notion of things parting, adjusting to people is something we've tried a number of versions. We did a tattoo based on this system that actually one or two actual tattoos exist. A person would pick out the imperfections on his or her body, and then we would make a kind of magnetic field system. You know, one mole calls to the other. And we're wondering if we can make a clothing system out of this. You pick 5 points on the body, 2 nipples, a belly button, and a vagina. Can one draw the other, and you make this kind of field system? And ideally, you can build a city on this a magnetic field system. But I don't know how far we've gotten. There are a number of architects, certainly not just us, who are trying to do things according to principles of biology. But right now, it seems to be only a metaphor. Yes, I can say here's a magnetic field system. Yeah, maybe you can use that as a system of design, but it's not going to move in the future. I mean, maybe it will, but certainly not as we've done. It's more of a design method where it should be a real growth method. We haven't figured out how to do it yet. But at the same time, I don't want to say that this isn't possible. In the future, it's certainly not possible now. Or maybe I even have to say more validly that we haven't found a way to make what we really want happen. But I can't say that among some of those architects that we admire, somebody might have discovered it. We don't know about it yet. Right now we listen to electronic music, Japanese noise music, no voice. We want music to be a surround. I think music and architecture are exactly the same. Not exactly the same, but they're at least analogous. Both music and architecture make a surrounding. And also, they make an ambience, but also both music and architecture allow you to do something else while listening to music, something else while in the middle of architecture. That to me that's probably the keynote of the 21st century. Like I think a lot of architects now, I think what we really want is, can we make a place you take with you? A little fashion magazine called The Black Book a few years ago proposed to us that the umbrella hasn't been redesigned in years. Could we try our hand at an alternate umbrella? We started with the idea of ruffles in clothing. So what we did was make a kind of umbruffla, combining umbrella and ruffles. It's made of two-way mirrored mylar, so when you're wearing it, you can see, because of the change of light, you can see out. But from outside, you just see reflections of the city. So it acts as a camouflage system. Our umbrella has some advantages over the conventional umbrella. You can tie one end to your waist, one end to your wrist, so your hands are free. You can wrap it around you like a kind of cloak. If another umbrella is coming towards you, you don't have to bump umbrellas. You can wrap it around yourself. It's an umbrella that 2 people can use, so you can wrap another person up with you. Then the ruffle system, if we do it well enough, will allow it to fold down. Ideally, it should fold into the size of a wrist. I've always been told I'm a kind of, incurable optimist. I'm a curable optimist at the same time, being an amazing depressive. Yes, computer has all these kinds of possibilities. Religion and belief is the opposite. I can't necessarily say that religion and belief isn't going to win. I would be very optimistic if I could be convinced that everybody wanted to leave home, but I'm afraid a lot of people want to go back home. And going back home, I think, is wanting something that you can be sure of, something that you can believe, and also something that you can keep other people out of. And that's scary. With not just an instrument, but the computer is a network of instruments. With a network of instruments so vast, it seems like, can home and security ultimately win? I really don't think it can. I might not be around to see it. What I want to believe is that, and this has something to do with what I was saying about the kind of stuff we really want to do is the kind of place you carry with you. Maybe the future is a world where people, where people carry their own homes with them, where they never have to go home. There are no boundaries to cross. It's a world of nomads. A world of nomads can be an incredibly exciting world, but it's the opposite of home.